Hello, everyone, and a big welcome to our workshop on starting with why and developing your video pitch. I'm very excited to be here and sharing some of our insights that we've gathered over the years in terms of how to create that pitch effectively. My name is Shitang. I'm joined here with Kobe from our staffing team, and we're going to give a proper introduction of ourselves in a little bit. But Kobe, I might get you to just start our screen share and then we'll kind of get going. There'll be a point where for the people on this call, I'm going to prompt you to also introduce yourself, but we'll pause our recording during that time. So, Kobe, I will pass it to you.
Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yeah. I think it's a little bit slow on my end, but yeah, we have it here. Now, before we get going, I do want to acknowledge that I am speaking here from the unceded ancestral territories of the Mi'kmaq in Chipuktuk, which translates to the Great Harbor, also known as Halifax, Nova Scotia. I think for all our team works in various different parts of Turtle Island, and for us, it has been a ongoing learning to learn from Indigenous leaders and also think about what reconciliation may mean in the context of what we do in our work. We do have some workshops around Indigenous learnings and things that we are still in the process of arranging and finalizing, but we do encourage all of you to join that as well. We've historically had an alumni share some real great insights on that front. And I want to start with that acknowledgement before we get going. So I'll proceed now with a bit of an introduction. But before maybe we'll introduce ourselves and we'll pass it on to everyone else. So a little bit of who I am. So my name is Shitangshu. I'm a Bengali Canadian who actually just came back from Kyrgyzstan not too long ago. But I was working there with the Aga Khan Foundation as a consultant looking at climate issues. And they have, by the way, a great fellowship program, which I will cross promote because for anyone who is interested as young leaders in looking into the international development space, there's whether it's that intersection of international development and climate, like myself, or international development and women's issues, or international development entrepreneurship. There's some real incredible opportunities there to this 8 month fellowship, and oftentimes, as I had the privilege to do, kind of work further with that great organization. So just want to kind of share about them a little bit. Now I'm back here as I end my contract, and I work part time with the Youth Impact Challenge as their executive director. And also beyond all that, there's a nonprofit called the Oath Project, which recently rebranded as One for Earth. And Oath stood for one act at a time to help the Earth. And the idea was, how do we promote environmental action? Now it's interesting because all what I've given you there, and part of even the exercise today, is I've given you a lot of like facts about myself, but I want to also center that beyond all those facts, I am someone who has been on the other side of this work. I have been in your shoes where I'm developing various pitches and all that. And part of my why, in terms of why I'm here today, is to try and share some knowledge that's been gathered, also learn from all of you. A lot of our exercise today is intended to be interactive and asking you folks questions as well. And ultimately, kind of give back in small ways to a youth innovation community that I've been a part of and has given a lot to me. I really love this saying that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I can't remember who it was, but we had one of our staff people when I think Kobe prompted, hey, everyone share a quote. They shared that, and it's actually the same one that I've got on my LinkedIn. And it's one that means a lot in terms of our approach at the Youth Impact Challenge and my own personal why. And part of the reason I bring this up here is, we have lots of teams represented in this call, and I want to like really encourage you folks to essentially connect with each other. There's going to be some networking opportunities later in the summer as well, and think about how we can support each other instead of seeing each other as like competitors that you're competing for a limited pool of funding from. Rather, how do we support each other's missions? How do we potentially cross promote each other's work. And I really do firmly believe that, it is us working together which will kind of move the needle when it comes to all of the many problems around social environmental impact that are worth fighting for. And so, yeah, so I come here in terms of my why as I think still young. I'm on the older side of getting now, but still a young person myself who's been on the other side of these kinds of challenges, and I'm really grateful to kind of have this opportunity to give back. And ultimately, what's really cool is YC. It might have its own sliver of impact, but it's the multiplier effect when you see the incredible work that so many different teams are doing. That also kind of keeps people like myself motivated to do this kind of work. And on that front, we have an ex-alumni in Kobe who has done some incredible work themselves and is now on our staffing team. So, Kobe, I'm going to prompt you to kind of introduce yourself.
Yeah, for sure. I guess I can start off by just echoing what Tangshi's been saying about YC and the collaborative nature of things that we do here. Like you mentioned, I participated in YC both last year and in 2023, and really catapulted my own journey in a lot of ways. But one of the first memories I had was kind of attending one of these workshops. It might have been this exact one. I can't remember exactly. But one of the things that was unique was like Shitangshi was like, oh, he was kind of programming everyone to turn on their cameras, and I actually did, and it wasn't one of those workshops that you just sit and listen. It was really interactive, and the people that I've met throughout YC and kind of a reason why I came back have kind of all been tied to that collaborative nature of things. So, yeah, huge props to Shashangshu and all the work that you've done, and I'm happy to kind of now be a part of the team and contribute to more of your projects. So, a little bit about me. Uh, my name is Kobe. I use he, him pronouns. If you've noticed already, like Kobe Bryant, Kobe Lee, like, I was actually named after Kobe Bryant, and a lot of my, things that I'm involved in started with sports. So like basketball and, I still play to this day. Even Ultimate Frisbee, where I play on the varsity team at McMaster University, are all kind of things that I'm passionate about and have kind of led me into other things, such as photography and videography. I do a lot of sports photos and videos for freelance. And then at school, I'm studying biomedical and mechanical engineering. Just finished up my first year, heading into my second year. And yeah, I guess a few other things, namely 2020 Mission, which was my YC project, and it's still ongoing to this day, where we organize kind of glasses donation drives, and we collect secondhand eyeglasses to ultimately donate those to people in need in developing countries. So that's kind of where my work is centered around, and I'm super excited to meet all of you. I guess we can start with some introductions now. Does anyone want to give maybe not as long, but I mean, feel free to just introduce what your project's on and kind of what you're up to.
Can you go back a couple slides to
Right.
the introduction slide? So, and we're gonna pause. I'll do what my piece here, and then Kobe, I'll prompt you to pause, and then whoever wants to can introduce themselves or type in the chat. And by the way, I think Kobe, a great point. Like, if people are comfortable turning on their cameras, absolutely lovely, and I think that just helps with the interactivity. We're not gonna force people to either, right? So, in the end, you folks are all if not adults, you're getting there. So like up to you. But it's lovely to see a couple faces here. So what I'm really keen for is kind of just understanding like how are people feeling. I'm sure I remember we had this question in the kind of confirmation thing. We saw a lot of nervous excitement, like kind of things that are popping up. And so like how are people feeling? We've got a few bird picks that you can maybe attach yourselves to and say, I'm feeling a 5 or a 3 or whatever. I know that probably right now I feel maybe a little bit like an 8, where it's been like a bit of a crazy kind of getting to this point, and so we're like a little bit tired and that kind of thing. But we're also like finally at the point where from our staffing team side we get to this is not the most enjoyable part of our work, where we get to work with all our teams, and so it's I'm most excited for that. So yeah, so how are you feeling, folks? And a little bit about yourself, pronouns, your team, maybe where you are calling from. Feel free to just type it in the chat, and I'd love if some people will have the courage to just raise their hands and share as well. Amazing. it really is amazing to just connect with so many young, incredible people from all across Canada. And I just want to say to all of you, congratulations for a couple things. One is to be here is like we had lots of incredible teams apply, and truthfully, sometimes we feel bad that we can't support. There's so many teams that don't make it that we're just like, we love your idea as well, we love your idea as well. But we know that that also means that 30 folks that do end up getting into top 30, they've demonstrated a really compelling idea with tremendous impact potential that they've been able to really kind of articulate really powerfully. And so it's just congratulations for just being here. Also, beyond just like getting to top 30, I think the real congratulations should go to you folks for like putting your efforts and energy into these various different kind of ventures that are making their impact in their own ways. Some of you are exploring science and some of you are exploring technology and like just pushing the bounds of innovation. Others, like I think, are in that space of, you know, how do we get people more connected in innovative ways and doing kind of creating more cohesive communities. And so really for the work you are doing, like absolutely congratulations. As you can see, you know, we are constantly inspired by all of the work that we see every year. And so just thank you for being here. I think with that, we're going to start our kind of core part of our workshop here. Just a heads up, I don't know if this is advertised for an hour. I hope not. I see it always ends up being an hour and a half. And so I hope that's what we advertise. This will be an hour and a half. In case people can, if you have to leave, that's okay. There's going to be a recording which people can view later and whatnot. So Kobe, can you go to the next slide, please? I if we're gonna see an agenda here, Kobe, next slide. Oh, I think it's stuck on my end, unless it's uh, all right, there you go. So yeah, so I'm actually gonna pass it off to Kobe in a second here, who's gonna talk about this concept called Ikigai, which I think we find powerful both in terms of really thinking about even why we are here today and why we are exploring adventures we are. You'll hear the word why a lot, and I'm gonna talk about a concept called starting with why, especially if you're in an active, you're studying social entrepreneurship. You may have heard this. It'll be a Simon Sinek. It's a concept that Simon Sinek kind of formalized, although I mean, it's the ideas being explored in different ways. And this will kind of connect with this concept of storytelling. Then we're going to discuss about how to design your pitch video. In particular, we're going to go through a pitch that I did for a challenge that was similar to YIC, and Kobe's going to go through his pitch video last year, which ended up being a finalist pitch. And then we're going to kind of bit of critique. And part of the reason we want to do that is kind of give some ideas and inspiration of what could a pitch video look like. You're going to notice that my video and Kobe's video are very different. And one of the key things we're going to like highlight is that there are many different ways to deliver an effective pitch and share a powerful and compelling story. And finally, we're going to go through rubric, and that'll be me again. So Kobe and I will kind of switch back and forth, and we're going to kind of review some final steps and open the floor for questions. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to you, Kobe, and to share the concept of Ikigai.
Yeah, so I guess to start, has anyone heard of this saying before? No, some of you maybe. I mean, Ikigai's been something that I first heard of through a YC workshop, so it's been a kind of a full circle type of moment, and it's something that I think about quite often, honestly. Like even on a week-to-week basis, is something that I'm always thinking about. You know, whether it's a school club, whether it's just even going out running errands. These are all like things that you might not even see how they connect, but they're all kind of tied into what you should end up doing in your life. And so the four kind of bubbles that you can see on the screen here are um, what you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you're good at. And um, there's the in-betweens of those four, but in the center is Ikigai, which is kind of what you should ultimately try to live for and kind of your reason to live. And it ties in everything from what you love, what you're good at, and all those things that can kind of come together. And so it's pretty abstract in how you think of it. I think it's something that you should strive for, but it's not, I guess, always possible, right? And that's why we have a profession or, just your typical job or workplace. And you have different things like missions where uh, I think 2020 mission can probably fall under that a little bit in terms of my project because it's something that I love to do. It's something that the world needs, but we're still exploring kind of the areas of like, am I really, really good at this? And can I be paid for it? And those are some things that will have to be considered as I just continue to strive for finding that ikigai. But um, we hope that this is a good framework and I guess a good concept to start with and something that you can have in the back of your mind on a regular basis of why you do things, whether it relates to your project or your personal life.
I see Charles says you lived in Japan for 10 years. Charles, I feel like we're definitely missing stuff. So, do you want to share kind of how the concepts used in Japan or what you kind of, uh, yeah, maybe what you learned from your experiences?
Oh, I mean, I have not explored that term like very much, but I've just like heard of it. Like pe people use it a lot. It's more for like the sense of fulfillment,
Mhm.
mostly. But I like when I lived there, I know that people used it a lot there. So yeah.
Nice. And one thing I like really appreciate about the concept is there is, especially when you look at the many different kinds of problems that we have to live through. It's there really is a space for everyone to do something. I mean, if you're a programmer, there's so many ways you can make an impact. If you are someone who's more really good with those personal connections and like there's a place for you. So those are things where there's so many skills that we each bring to the table that is then as the question becomes, how do we kind of find those intersections? Okay, yes, I'm a programmer, I'm good at that, but what is something that the world needs and that I care about as a problem that really is deeply resonates with me, and then like ultimately, ideally, you want to find that thing as well, even though as Kobe pointed, it can be hard, where it's not just going to be it's also going to be something that I can make a long term career with and that kind of thing. And so I do really, as you folks go through your own impact journeys, I encourage you to reflect on this and just think about it. But thank you, Kobe, for introducing that. And I think with that, we're going to introduce another concept. And this is going to be central to kind of the question of how you market yourselves in your video pitches, as well as really, even as you develop your ventures, how you kind of pick and choose how where you put your efforts. And this concept of starting with why. It's been popularized by Simon Sinek, although of course it's kind of there's been variations of it. Even Ikigai, you could say, is kind of a variation of this concept in many ways that have been there for a while. Has anyone heard of Simon Sinek and starting with why and this whole thing? Maybe our Enactus folks or anyone else?
I think Oliver
Interesting.
has raised
Okay,
that.
I thought there.
Oliver
Oliver.
has
Okay,
hand
go
raised,
ahead,
but I don't
Oliver.
think he
What
can
do you know,
speak. So
Oliver? Oh, you can't speak? Okay. Well, tell you what, Oliver, if you can speak, just type in the chat a little bit and perhaps don't worry about it. Okay, perhaps Kobe, you can start the video. All right. Oliver, you share a little bit of what you know as well, and then we'll kind of prompt a bit of discussion with the group. So this is a video from Simon Sinek. There's a
Probably the
TED Talk, which I really encourage you folks to check out. Maybe Kobe, after all of this is done, we'll share the recording and of course everything as well. I encourage you to share this short video, but also the larger TED Talk, because I do think the larger TED Talk is really, really valuable. But we're going to see here is like a very quick, condensed version that really goes to the core of starting with why. And you see, Oliver says, I love this video. He knows it. So go ahead, Kobe.
world's simplest idea. I call it the golden circle. This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do, 100%. Some know how they do it, but very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. By why, I mean what's your purpose, what's your cause, what's your belief, and why should anyone care? The inspired leaders and the inspired organizations all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this: we make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. That's how most marketing is done. That's how most sales is done. We say what we do. We say how we're different or how we better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? People don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. The goal is not to do business with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. Again, the goal is not just to sell people who need what you have, the goal is to sell to people who believe what you believe. If you hire people just because they can do a job, they'll work for your money. But if you hire people who believe what you believe, they work for you with blood and sweat and tears. Something called the law of diffusion of innovation. The first 2.5% of our population are our innovators. The next 13.5% of our population are our early adopters. The next 34% are your early majority, your late majority, and your laggards. That if you want mass market success or mass market acceptance of an idea, you cannot have it until you achieve this tipping point between 15 and 18% market penetration. So it's this here.
I think you're good. I think the first part I'll focus on. There's a lot of different concepts that Simon Sinek covers, and encourage you to check them out. But really, one that we want to focus on here, and if you go to the next slide here, is this golden circle. And even for something like YC, one way to introduce yourselves might be, we are YC. We run a summer challenge that gives a bunch of funding to young people, and we run all these programs and workshops and all that. And that's really to talk about what we do. So I think a different way to articulate what we do and really kind of connect with funders, connect with people who we might want supporting us, even staff, is to say that our mission is to help young people turn their ideas into action. We believe in the power of young people to change the world and change their communities for the positive. We have certain values. You'll see them on our website. Values like equitable innovation, understanding that sometimes different people are not starting at the same place when it comes to being there in terms of their capacity as innovators, and we want to do something about it. We believe in giving the power to youth when it comes to resources. So you'll notice that with our funding, once we give you the funding, it's unrestricted, essentially, right? And you can kind of spend it in whatever you want. It could be some of you spend it for school fees, and at some level, we'll respect that if you feel that that's where you are going to grow you at yourself as an innovator. It may be that you try an innovation and it doesn't work out. And so for us, this idea of ownership of resources is another kind of value that's important. And another one, and you're going to hear that a lot. We talked about it. We came to that quote of if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Another value we have is collaboration. So how are those values? Those values that are really key to us in terms of how we operate. Our why is that mission. Our mission is to turn all of your ideas into action, and this potential that we see into real life impact. And the what? Well, the what can be a lot of things. We could address our mission by creating an accelerator program. We're exploring an idea of creating a nonprofit accelerator right now. We could, do it by, running a purely mentorship program. We could also do the summer challenge, right? Summer challenge just happens to be the thing we're doing, but really what's the core of our work is this mission of helping young people turn their ideas into action. And that's kind of our check to think about, hey, if you're going to launch a new venture, does it somehow address the mission? If you're going to market it to different people, how do we highlight that this is the core of what we do in terms of our why? So there's a lot there. And I'd love for you to discuss a little bit. So I've got a couple of discussions kind of questions to prompt some discussion. So first of all, when you think of your ventures, you think about the circle. Is there anyone who would maybe like to try and articulate your kind of various projects in terms of this kind of golden circle? So it's a bit of a chance for you to try and market yourselves and also kind of really tell us what your projects are in a different way. Anyone who wants to try it?
I mean, I can try. We were just talking about it because we had a meeting before, because we're trying to solidify a bit our value proposition. And we did think about like how the why is super important. So I guess our what do we do? Well, we are creating a edible cutlery product. And then the how, that's still in the works. We're in the phase where we're doing an R&D, we're doing research to try to see how we can formulate a feasible and tasty formula, a recipe. And then the why, this is what we were like just talking about. We think this product is different because we're reinventing a ancient habit, which is always eating with non-edible cutlery. So I think that's like the main message. We're initially we were thinking of advertising it as an eco-friendly alternative, which it still is, but we feel like that's oversaturated and it's not going to get people's attention as much because a lot of products are already kind of doing that. So we're trying to approach it in a different angle and we're going to try to utilize this whole reinventing habits thing. I actually read a book called Zero to One with Peter Thiel. I don't know if anyone knows it.
It's a great book. Yeah, feel free to talk more
Yeah.
about it.
It's an incredible book and it really touched me. And that's where I got the idea of like re because like that's what a good product I feel like comes from the idea that you can change things into ways that people would be like, wait, that's weird, that's not possible. But then next thing you know, it's actually the thing that's like going to be the most successful. I can't really think of a product right now, but like I don't know. I feel like in history, products that have stood out are the ones that changed how society used to view habits or like used to view how you should do things. Like basically being contrarian. Like, sorry, is that not clear? But anyways, yeah, that's
100%. Okay, I love it. And as you folks are developing your videos and things, think about starting with that why, right? Like what happens to be sure. There's a lot of different things you can do, but then there is this core thing about how can we change that just the mentality of like picking up a cutlery and like what that should be, right? And that's an incredibly ambitious, but nonetheless, I think worthwhile venture, especially when you also think about the impacts that change can have for the environment and for people as well. So love that. Is there anyone else who wants to give this a shot? If not, we can move on kind of to the next question. Maybe you can also, Kobe can go to the next question and we'll see if anyone wants to raise their hands. Okay. So how does this apply to your ideas? I guess Clara actually kind of did kind of shared it in their context. How can this concept kind of apply to your focus ideas? And then we'll also kind of share a little bit.
If no one else wants to share, I can share kind of
Go for it. Yeah,
my
let's go.
project. So I guess I'll start by introducing you with the why, and it's to really I guess the story behind it is my own visual impairment, and I wear contact lenses now, but for a while like I was pretty high myopia when I was a kid, so seeing clearly was a huge kind of pain point in my story, and for a lot of other people, over 1.1 billion people actually all over the world who can't get the proper eye care they need, and that's the why behind it. How we did it is kind of what we're more known for. Whereas you would see like our donation boxes for secondhand eyeglasses, you'd see us going on international mission trips, and people remember the collecting secondhand eyeglasses and going on these trips. And then I guess the what is executing all of that. But I think starting the what with the why is super important, especially when I'm introducing the idea to others, because I can get bogged down in all the details of, oh yeah, we organize trips, once a year. We contact host families and host organizations like Red Cross and Rotary clubs in these third world countries, especially in Central America, and then you get lost in all these details and don't actually get to explain why he started it. And I feel like that story is a huge part, and especially why I think a lot of you top 30 teams have made it to this point, because one of the rubric parts, which we'll touch on later, is the founding team's strength. And that is a huge part of the why that kind of applies to the golden circle here. So that's kind of where I'm at with 2020 mission. Happy to pass it on to anyone else who wants to also maybe share theirs, and even if it's not perfectly thought out, and like start with the why and see how you can expand to the how and the what. Any takers?
I just want to quickly share, Cody, one thing I really love about your story, and I remember when you so Kobe was a two-time alumni. You know, first time they won $1,000. They did a mission trip, and the next time they came back. But something that really I appreciated was you provide stories, and you provide stories of people who literally they didn't have glasses their entire life. And then wearing this, suddenly the world is different. And like those moments, I remember you shared there was a story, I think in Guatemala or Honduras, I can't remember. In Guatemala, right, Kobe?
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe you can share. Like there's some you mentioned there are many stories, but there was one in particular where I remember someone they never had a glass in their entire life, and they wore this, and they were just like, "Oh my gosh, you've changed my life."
Yeah, it was a 24-year-old girl, and she mentioned she had never gone to high school because she was minus 15. That's like the worst prescription I've ever seen. Like that is like if you put someone right here, you wouldn't be able to recognize them. You get dizzy from looking at anything. And that's kind of one of those stories I hold on to. And we were able to give her the glasses that would help her go to school again, and she attended high school. And kind of tying that into, I'm seeing some questions in the chat. Um, Especially around STEM-based innovations, which I guess 2020 mission would be more social, but uh, there's probably some blurriness between why and how, and then how and what. That's just kind of nature of explaining things. But one of the core things about why, and that's why I think Shitangshu is really emphasizing kind of starting with that, is because people always just venture towards the what and the how, just like in the video they mentioned on the sales calls. And you really have to kind of take an even further step back, I think, um, in terms of like, what is the ultimate goal? If you had to describe it in maybe even 5 words, what would be the why behind your project? Like maybe it is a personal story, and that can definitely be part of the why. But don't get into the science. Um,
So
yeah,
yeah.
sorry.
So Mike, if I told you to articulate your why, go.
Sorry, I missed that. My Wi-Fi is breaking up.
Okay, if I say, okay, I'm challenging you, articulate your why. Why should you even
Articulate
care
my,
about this? Yeah,
because in the Hamilton region, if you look outside, there's a lot of steel. The history of Hamilton is characterized by steel industrialists, and as a result of that, we found like through talking through people that this has had effects in the aging population. This has had effects like in all these different like levels of the I don't want to say civilization, that's not the right word here, but like the different populations of Hamilton. And we're seeing how can we pair this together with the innovation that's happening at our university, specifically McMaster. And we're like we see that there is this path forward with algae and algae gene editing. So that's why we're thinking, hey, if we make this platform for production through a sustainable platform, uh, like we can address all these problems like all in one go.
Mike, too much there. There's too much
Too
there.
much. Okay.
It's too like it took. It's still not clear. You want your why to be compelling, succinct. Like one thing I love the YC mission, ideas to actions, right? Hopefully, when you hear that, you get it, right? How do you
Right.
turn young people's ideas to action? Like something. So we're gonna go to Charles for a second. Then we'll come back to you. And the challenge is as Charles kind of shares their thoughts and you think about it, we'll come back to you and like how do you get that compelling why. The how is we're getting into more details. How can also be values that are important. So for example, with YC, equity is an important value. Giving young people like the power to kind of decide what to do with the resources they have. Collaboration. These are values, right? So, they aren't the core mission; they're the values, which ultimately, and you can think of the mission as almost it never changes. The values they evolve, but they're still fairly stable. And then what is your
Right.
program? Your program, your product that can change. So I'm going to come back to you, Mike. I'm going to challenge you to get that more focused. Okay,
Sounds
Charles.
good.
While Mike does that, you go ahead.
Okay, sounds good. So I'm also still working on making this shorter too, but essentially the why for why we're doing this is because newcomer students, there are students that are new to Canada and they often do not have connections to other mentors or other members who can perhaps help inform what their future career goals might be, right? And And these groups, they would often find challenges too, because a lot of them would also experience language barriers, which add to the challenges of exploring what careers they would want to go into. And some of the existing programs, the so-called enrichment programs like SHAD, or if anyone's heard of MedYSP from University of Toronto, a lot of these programs are actually quite expensive. And while they provide a very focused discussion of STEM in a particular area, they often fail to provide a more broader overview of like the multiple different kinds of healthcare careers. And they often don't work specifically with the newcomer population, which is why we believe it's really important for us to do what we do, because we want to provide an environment where we can support individuals who are new to Canada, who are often language learners, and we want to do these in spaces where there is a large newcomer demographic as well. I also have
I'll
a
just
personal anecdote that I would like to share that I didn't include in here. Should
go
I
for it.
include that?
Yeah, you go ahead. Yeah.
So personally, I've been a newcomer to Canada, and for the first 2 years, or not for the first 2 years, for the first 2 years in high school, I was actually an ESL student. So instead of taking the standardized academic English classes, I have to take like a more of a like it's like a English learner classes. And a lot of the students that I will meet through there, many of them actually don't even consider healthcare careers because they think that the communication aspect of it is extremely challenging. So I remember that when I entered university and I revisited my school, some of so the teachers actually they were really surprised that I chose to go into health sciences instead of computer science or engineering, because it's just that for a lot of these students who are new to Canada, they often they're actually very scared to go into a field that has a lot of communication. And I think that a lot of these healthcare fields, it's also not as transparent as it can be. So when I say the word healthcare, what a lot of people think is, okay, doctor, nurses, but they don't actually see that there's a lot more other careers in healthcare, such as radiation therapy or other careers out there, right? Which is actually another part of reasons why we're doing this. And it also aligns with the organization that we're working with, which is Pump. And their entire mission is really to make the health sciences field as transparent as possible to all the population group in Canada.
Charles, I loved your addition. Okay. And one of the things about a lot of us is lived experience is such a powerful a kind of a motivator for understanding our why or connecting with our why. Like you're talking in that last anecdote, like that is your lived experience, right? This isn't just like, oh, I think I'm going to get into some med school better if I have this on my resume. That this is not what it is. This is like a mission that's very personal to you, that you have lived in some way. You know how these are supports that you didn't experience. You know that perhaps there are supports which you did experience with like mentors and stuff that you got, and you want to make those accessible, right? So I'm a challenge to you. I think you're getting there, all right? So I don't think you need to revisit it completely. I think just like refine it a little bit. How do we that mission of every newcomer? We have a diverse Canada, and newcomers coming to Canada deserve the opportunity for mentorship, especially in the health sciences space, as much as anyone. You're going to make it happen, right? And mentorship and education, as much as anyone, you're going to make it happen. And you are speaking from lived experience. Bringing your lived experience and articulating your why. We're going to go. Kobe's going to like talk about that in the next part. We talk about how to put this all in your video. But really, really good stuff. I love that anecdote. How do you bring that into your story as a whole? All right. Oliver, I'll go to you. You also had a question. Probably talk about implication of your results as well. For sure. Yeah. Like the what can happen, right? Like, look, sometimes it's like part of the reason I am here at YC and when I talk about my personal why is because I know that when a young person is well supported, they can do some really incredible things. And so like that's absolutely like you may want to bring that in. Oliver, go ahead. And if there's anything you want to add or
I was trying to reply. I was trying to reply to Mike's message for that one, but yeah,
Okay.
I just raised my hand because I could share more about my idea as well.
Sure. Sure.
We're
Go
running
ahead.
short of time. Okay. So basically, I think for my project, it started off personally, right? Because I'm on the national team for badminton, so that's something I'm really passionate about. I've been focusing my time on, and wait, you can hear me all right, right? I know it's really loud. Okay. Yeah, so for me, badminton, it's always been really unpopular and obscure in regions in Canada, USA, and especially in Latin American regions. So we're focusing a lot in the Pan Am region as a whole. It started off personally as something that I wanted more recognition in, personally, because I found that I would go to national tournaments, sometimes even win, and come back to school without anyone realizing I was even gone for the week. And then as time progressed, traveling internationally to play Pan American tournaments, international tournaments, I found that Latin American regions, especially, they're very unequal, right? They're not having enough resources. People are suffering from heat strokes during tournaments in their venues because of the lack of access. They're not getting enough hydration, etc. So I decided to create my project, Voila Pan Am, in order to not only get these authentic stories from athletes out through podcast signs, etc., to raise recognition for badminton, but also to use badminton as a way for people to achieve more social mobility and defeat inequality, well, mitigate inequality in a sense. And yeah, I think that's backed by existing research as well as our own. And I think it would be a pretty innovative lens to tackle those two birds at once.
So I think you, like Mike, need a bit more work to kind of just tailor this message, and that's part of the reason we do this exercise. I do think, look, I shared with you part of my first nonprofit I ever started was a sports nonprofit that continues to this day, and I that experience of what sports, and Kobe's talked about this too. Sports in particular can do so much to bring people together and just give people that social connection and all of those good things. And so, like, how do we somehow bring into the story what badminton did for you, and now you're on this mission to like bring it to the rest of the world? I think Oliver, there's a bit of work to do in terms of how to get that. Absolutely love your mission. I hope you have for here's a friend of mine. We did a program together. We did Venture for Canada together. Really, really wonderful. I really hope you enjoy connecting with her. She talks about social synchronicity in the context of fitness a lot, and there's some real connections with your work. So, and very much even to what your whole thing is. It sounds like it's not even about creating like a line of the best badminton players ever. It's about badminton. It really does something for people's confidence. For it did for you, right? For health, for confidence, social synchronity, and social connection. There's so many things it provides, and you're now on this mission to make that accessible to people. So, Oliver, a bit of work to do, but you're getting there. Okay, I promised Mike would get back to them. Was there someone else who raised their hand? I can't remember. I know we're running out of time. I also want to get to everyone. I really appreciate how participative people we are being. Was there anyone else who raised their hand?
I did, but it's okay.
Okay.
It's all good.
Go ahead. Yeah, go. It's all right.
No, like it's okay. Like Mike can go.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, Mike, you go ahead, and yeah, we'll get everyone involved. And if there's been another question, we'll get other people involved. Go ahead, Mike.
Before we proceed, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Or should I?
Of course.
Okay. So in terms of
Yes.
my project, there's an industrial aspect and a social aspect, and the social aspect touches on climate change. But I feel like
Mhm.
like often in these pitch, like what's being communicated here is that the social aspect is like what like essentially touches people. But I feel like the project that we have is stronger on the industrial side. So how would you go about
Mhm.
communicating that? Would you say?
A- And what's the industrial side? Like you're talking about in Hamilton, there's an opportunity for industrial resurgence in
Yes.
essence. Is that correct, Mike? Right?
You-
Yeah, go ahead. You can answer your question better. To talk about the industrial side a bit more. Not in
so the
terms of why,
industrial
but
side of
just
it,
yeah.
the social impact comes through the incentive that we provide businesses
Okay.
to be more sustainable.
Okay.
So at the core, it's a social impact, but the way we're selling it, I feel like could be more convincing like from the industrial perspective, but
Okay.
that doesn't really like actually touch the hearts of people, I think.
Okay, couple thoughts. So first of all,
Yeah.
our judges, and you do play to the audiences a bit, and one thing that's tough for you is we have many judges.
Right.
People typically each venture gets evaluated 3 to 4 judges, and there's a total of 24 judges. There's some scaling things we do to just so in case some judges a bit harsh, etc. There's ways we adjust for that. Now the thing is, in your case, I will say that sometimes a why can be very powerful if it does touch on some of these other aspects. So in a very honest way, like I'm probably biased because I have a like the social like thing side to me, but there's other people who are looking at this as a bit more in a business lens. Still, the impact should be centered, but saying like, hey, what we are going to do is we are leading a green revolution for Hamilton as an industrial like that. There's ways maybe we can connect it to, right? So
Right.
in particular, like I talk about so many different places. Like work in Kyrgyzstan explicitly was, you know, there is a very powerful motivator to transform the industries in the country to also align with this with the green economy, the green revolution, all these things that are coming in, because they're going to be left behind if they don't go that route.
Right.
And there's of course the green impact. Now, when I used to kind of make my cases or things in terms of why to a Kyrgyz audience, I'm going to be direct with you. The climate why did not necessarily appeal as strongly as the economic transformation why. So I'll say, Mike, the economic transformation why is a very powerful thing. And in many audiences, that is the thing that you want to focus on. I think you will need to play around with like the video concept, the video storyline, the scripts, etc. But if that's the way you approach it, that could work very, very effectively. And so, and maybe there's even ways to combine the two in as well. So think about that for what it might be for you. I don't want to like the story to be, oh, just focus on this one side of impact when there is this other side that's also very important. And maybe in your case, that needs to be where you start. So does that make sense, Mike? And the industrial transformation, I'm coming from a country where the sell to people wasn't always, oh, go green because of climate. It was go green because of you and your economy and your wallet and what Kyrgyzstan needs to do to get in line with the green shift that we are seeing across the world. Does that make sense, Mike? Maybe that's the
Yeah,
angle you need to take on.
that does make sense, and I like
Okay.
will probably rephrase. I won't go right now, but that's something I'll write into our pitch in our video.
Fair. Okay, so work on it, and of course, these are things you work with your mentor on as well. You have office hours that you can take advantage of. There's all these other supports in future workshops. We may touch on some of these things. So, all right, lots to think about, folks. Thank you everyone for being very participative. Kobe, maybe you can ask your question, but also I feel like we did touch on this a little bit already. So we'll ask it in case anyone else has things to add. But if not, we can go into the example video pitches. So Kobe, I'll pass it on to you.
Yeah, just in the best interest of time, I'll quickly go over this slide and I'll give some of my thoughts, and then we'll just go straight into the video pitches and then discuss from there. Um, I guess we mentioned the projects and the ideas, but in terms of the pitch, we all know it's a whole other beast in terms of presenting this to judges, to people, to stakeholders who are going to have a say in whether or not people get funding, and that's, I guess, it is a part of it. Not the entire thing, but a huge part nonetheless. So in terms of the pitch, one of the things that I always try to wrap my head around is the context. So usually when you're doing a pitch in person, I like to think of like the five senses, like things that you can see, hear, even touch, like when you're showing off prototypes. Smell and taste are optional, but sometimes they're there. The difference for a video pitch is that you lose some of those aspects. And that's one of the things that you'll see in my pitch later is that because it's a video, you're focused incredibly tightly on just the visual and the audio aspect. And because you don't have the touch and the taste and the smell, you're gonna have to really be able to tell your story with the why, how, and what through just those two senses. So that's something I want you guys to think about, and we can kind of move into the two videos that we had here. So Shitangshu, we're starting with yours first.
Yeah, sounds good. But I have a question for you folks. So what do you think the core goal, what should your video do as it relates to centering your why? And I will say you want to, I feel like I've said this, I mean, it's literally in our title. You want to tell your, starts with S. Story, exactly right. So you're telling a story, right? You're telling a story of, maybe it's how your team came together, and then there's this mission that connected them, and here you go, right? Or maybe it's, you know what, I'm a proud Hamiltonian, and I'm seeing this happen in my region and my city, and I want this to change. Especially in context of everything else that's going on in the world. Maybe it's, I've lived this problem, Kobe's story, right? I've lived this problem, and I know how central like a person's vision is to their perspective of the world, quite literally. And there's this thing that moves you. I really loved, I think it was you, Charles, right? Like that story of like, this is like my story of I was the person I'm helping, right? 2 years ago, this was me. I didn't have these things, and I want to give these opportunities to other young newcomers coming to Canada. So bring in all of these elements, and that's your start. That's just the start of your story. You're starting with your why. That's the start. But then also, hey, you know what? Our team. Look at our team. Our team is so cool. Look at all these things that they're doing. Look at the fact that we're clearly showing that we are values driven, and we have a plan in place. We're not just ideas people. We're implementation people, right? You're sharing this in your story, and these are all the things that we're going to do to implement it. So now when I'm listening to you as a judge, I'm like, okay, these people have a mission, and I can see that. That's beautiful, but they've got a clear, like they know what they're doing, right? They've got this clear implementation plan as well. And then I see the impact. I can see, you talk about, you know what, if you give us this chance, if you give us that $1,000, that $5,000, this is what the impact of that is going to be. And then that way you are now drawing me in. So you might start with the why, but you're weaving all of those different elements of the rubric, as you're going to talk about in a second here, and you're weaving all of them into this powerful story. Everyone's story is different. There are many ways to tell a powerful story, but that is your goal, folks, is to tell a powerful story, which starts with the why, but then also goes into all of those things and weaves it in together. Okay, we're going to give you 2 examples. I think mine is, I feel sometimes a bit cringe when I watch it again and again, but we're gonna ask for people to critique and say what we think that we did well, Kobe and I, in telling our stories, and what we think we could have done better. Okay, so we'll play these videos and then.
Hey everyone, my name is Shitangshu, and I'd like to introduce you to the Oath Project. Our story today begins here, in the oceans, which is sadly home to no less than 150 million tons of plastic waste. That devastates so many species, but in particular this one, the leatherback turtle, an evolutionary marvel that has survived 116 million years, and yet today is among the most endangered animals on the planet. The challenge for this turtle is it likes to eat jellyfish, but far too often mistake plastic bags for its dinner, leading to poisoning, choking, and even death. It was hearing this story 3 years ago I found myself wanting to make change, but I'm no engineer, I'm no marine biologist, and so I asked, what could I do? How could I help the turtles? And I made this commitment, to pick up 1 piece of litter each day, maybe a bit more, which I have, proud to say, have done so far to date. Now, I'd like to think this made a difference, however small, but I start pondering this question. How do you get these small-scale actions to scale? How can I motivate others to do the same? Beyond just litter pickups, how do you get people in general to do small-scale environmental acts and come together, when added up, make such a difference? So here I was inspired by technology-driven movements like the Arab Spring, the Time's Up movement, or Greta Thunberg's hashtag Friday for Futures events. And inspired too by petition-making sites like Change.org. And so the idea was born, the Oath Project, where we use technology to drive change by having people commit, petition style, to do 1 act at a time to help the Earth. Hashtag Take the Oath. So how does it work? Let's go to our website. The project challenges people to undertake a campaign. And each campaign challenges them to do a small act every day, every month, every year perhaps. It can make a difference, whether that is a commitment to 1 piece of litter each day or planting just 1 tree a year. And clicking that act, they can sign up to do that change. Again, petition style. Except the audience here is not a government or some corporation, but themselves. They are signing a petition demanding and committing themselves to do those actions. Then there's the hashtags. Getting friends to share, tag, and more. And our mailing list where we check in to hold people accountable to their promises, offer opportunities so that they can help us together decide on what the next Oath Project is to take. 1 that we choose each month together. But this is what gets me most excited. This calculator here. The impact calculator. For truly it can be seen that 1 piece of litter might not make such a big difference. When 3,000 people commit to it, that can amount to 50 tons diverted in a decade. And what if we got to have 1 million? Well, then we're talking about tons diverted in thousands. This is a way to embrace collective action. That's perhaps when I talked to environmental NGOs and my contacts over the last couple of days, they saw merit in the idea. In fact, it's with their help that we are actually planning a full-scale launch of the website, with particular help from wonderful folks at Oceanwise in BC. On June 4, World Environmental Day. I'd like to end here with this quote from Howard Zinn, that small acts when multiplied by millions of people can change the world, for that is really the ethos of our mission, the essence of our project. I'd like to ask you to help us in this mission, help us find those contacts, help us join our campaigns, and let us together make the world a better place.
All right, so it is kind of crazy to think about. This was a hackathon idea, and it's kind of got it's done a lot of cool stuff, like this thing, right, that we came up over a weekend. I mean, to be fair, it was kind of it was a concept that was developed. It was on the shelf for a bit. It was kind of developed, and it was a weekend really where we put it all together. But and then it's been now many years. We were uh, yeah, we recently selected. Our team was as 20. Well, I mean, I guess I don't know how recent it is, but 2023 SDG Youth Award winner for environmental climate action, and we've done lots of things that are well beyond the campaigns, and it's just it's very, I guess, nostalgic looking back at that. Also very bit cringeworthy when you think about lots of things that went wrong in the video that I would have done differently. And yeah, and I'll say that we didn't win the prize in that one, but we did all right. Now, what are some things that we did well, and what are some things we could have done better with that video? Go ahead, Oliver.
Yeah, I think it was a really well done video in terms of backing research and further implementations. You had the calculator, which definitely showed substantial impact and like a call to action essentially for the future for everyone to join, which really brings people in together. And I think that was really compelling. Something I'm not really sure. Was your team composed of more than one member, or was it just yourself?
There was another one, but sometimes in hackathons some people disappear. So
Yeah.
it was basically me, but the team wasn't really highlighted in that one. This is it's
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
great
I think
point.
aside from that, like I thought this was for youth impact for a second, and I was like, oh,
No,
then
no,
maybe
it wasn't for
yeah.
Youth Impact. Yeah.
Then honestly, it's a pretty compelling video by itself, I think. And
Yeah, but I think highlighting a team, we could have done a better job of that for sure. Another thing that I do think, and maybe Mike is going to come into your thing, stats are also a very good way to share a story. So saying a personal story, either your own or someone that you've supported or that you know has been experiencing this challenge, a problem, very powerful. Statistics are a very powerful way to share stories. It's being like, hey, this is what Hamilton's dealing with right now, right? And maybe at one point it was at the top of Canada, and one of the like industrial centers, and now it's going through this thing, and we need a resurgence, and you're going to help with that. So I'm just, yeah, like there's ways that you can bring stats and really weave that into a story as well. Okay, what else could we have done better, or if we did anything else that we did well? Anyone else? Not Kobe. Do you wanna critique me? I don't know if you've seen this
Yeah, but I
video.
guess this might be just a time constraint one, but in terms of scrolling through the website, I think that's kind of distracting because I started looking at other things, but to have very like definite graphics and like cut it to when exactly you'll need it. And I think you'll see that more in maybe mine of like well, I mean, obviously I do video editing as a part-time job pretty much, but just cutting the clips to very succinct things so that people can focus on the right things and hear the right words at the right time.
Sounds
Otherwise,
good.
great
Yeah.
pitch. First time I'm
I think
watching.
I think also like it's to that point something like there's an overall impression score that you get for your videos, and if things are like too fast and you can't really hear and it's like rushed, and I mean you're scrolling and it's like visually distracting, like all of these can contribute to less of a score there. So I do think on that aspect from a quality standpoint, sometimes this is done for a hackathon, you're in this rush thing, but ultimately and you folks are of course you've got a lot to do in a short time. Uh, really think about we sometimes see, please don't do fast forwarded videos. It's so obvious when people put 1.2 f/25 speed or whatever, and people, it's just like it doesn't work. It's just so distracting, and people end up focusing on the quality instead of the actual thing that you're saying. So really, as much as 5 minutes doesn't seem like a lot, there's a lot you can fit there. You may need to make hard choices in terms of cutting certain things out, being more strategic, for example, as Kobe said, and this is what a parts of the website I'm going to show, and this is what I'm not going to show, that kind of thing, right? Versus like what I did, where you're just like kind of rushing through. I wasn't 1.25x, but I was just like talking at that speed, and it probably came through. Okay, let's go to you, Kobe, and your Youth Impact Challenge video.
Sounds good. We might not show the whole thing, but I'll do at least first 3 minutes. We'll see.
2020 Mission is an organization dedicated to collecting used glasses and donating them for reuse. Our mission is to tackle the ongoing prevalence of vision impairment all over the world. We do this by collecting used eyeglasses from various locations in Canada and labeling each one with the proper prescription.
What you've been seeing for the past 20 seconds is actually not a result of our poor camera quality. This is what the 2.2 billion people dealing with myopia and other eye issues around the world see every morning as soon as they wake up.
Our names are Kobe, Elva, and Jason, and together we form the Team 2020 Mission. Aside from all our hobbies and interests, what we all have in common is problems with our eyesight.
Like my name suggests, I've been an avid basketball player and fan all my life. Before having proper contact lenses and glasses to correct my vision, I was in negative 350 in both eyes and was shooting like Ben Simmons out there on the court.
I've been fortunate enough to have had access to glasses since the ripe age of 4. And so I was never able to imagine life without them until I started lifeguarding. Imagine being in a fight or flight situation and not being able to see what was happening around you during an emergency.
For me, I've also had a fair share of struggles with astigmatism. Performing piano on the brightest recital stages and reading the final on my score, proper eyeglasses is absolutely necessary to a musician.
1.1 billion people all over the world are affected by vision impairment. In fact, 90% of these visually impaired people come from low and middle income countries where proper access to eye care and eyeglasses is limited.
By tackling the inaccessibility of eyewear, we aim to address the overarching social issues of equal access to healthcare and disability rights. 2020 Mission hopes that we create a lasting impact for years down the line.
Many of the people in developing countries are without any sort of vision care. Not only does poor vision create problems in day-to-day life, there is impact that go beyond the individual. Generations of people are impoverished and born with hereditary eye problems. Proper eyesight opens doors and avenues to people who would never have access to with poor vision. Proper eyesight changes lifestyles, helping people unlock their full potential.
2020 Mission's process can be divided into 3 main parts. It all starts with the collection process. We have partnerships with optometry clinics, glasses shops, libraries, and rec centers in 6 different cities in the Vancouver Lower Mainland. At each location, we set up a donation box and a scheduled pickup time. In the past month, we spent over 50 hours on the road on 6 different trips, visiting over 100 stores and collecting over 1,300 pairs of glasses.
Behind me here is our Coquitlam City Center Public Library donation box, where visitors could drop their used pair of glasses.
What makes us stand out from our competitors is that we are based locally in Vancouver. Just a few years ago, the Lions Club was in charge of almost all the glasses donation boxes in BC. But as many know, the man in charge of collecting used glasses in our area has unfortunately passed away, leaving many shops with no suitable place to donate their customers' used glasses. After abandoning this practice, many shops are thrilled with our initiative of revitalizing these glasses and getting them in the hands of those who need it most. Here's what they had to say.
Hi, my name is Madison and I work at Bailey Nelson Coquitlam Center. And I think 2020 Mission Project is an amazing.
Okay, I'll end it there because it's just testimonials and then a quick ending. But I guess that's open to any points of feedback as well, if anyone has anything. This was like 2 years ago, so it's, yeah.
This is not last year's one, right? So last year's one had the interview, because to Oliver, it was an interview with a person in Honduras, and they had some translation thing, didn't it?
That might have been this one. This one, right?
Okay, so Oliver, to your question, translation's super fine. Like maybe you can show this because Oliver had a direct question about this.
This is in Cantonese.
攞呢啲眼鏡去俾個 third part third word，
Super
都
final, right? Like
都好
translations, you have
咁
caption,
樣，
all
因
good.
為個個人都係好，而家個個人都係顧自己，但係你哋都係好好努力咁做。
All right, so feedback for Kobe.
Yeah, Oliver?
Well, I think obviously the visuals and the aesthetics are really nice in this one, and I really like the background music, the intro. I'm not really sure for like our project if we are to make something like this, are we allowed to change the music like, at certain parts for extra impact and add like sound effects, those things, or is that deemed unprofessional?
Why is it deemed unprofessional, Oliver?
No, I'm not sure. That's why I was asking.
Okay, and Kobe, is it very unprofessional to impact sound when to?
No.
I don't know.
He didn't
It's
have the
not
sound. That's why I was wondering, like, if we change something in the middle suddenly.
It's very, Kobe had a good point, right? Because sometimes you're limited to your visual. So if you can use your sound, like in a real pitch, you are, you really are using all your senses to get something across. And really, you are limited to visual and auditory. So 100% think about how you use auditory in a unique way. Sometimes it is in music, and there's no music at points, and there is music at points or whatever. And I'm not saying you need that, by the way, right? Like Kobe, we intentionally showed two pitches, both of which actually did well. Like both of us, we didn't win the grand prize in our various things, but we won. Like Kobe was a finalist, and then I won like a category prize. So I was like right below the grand prize. And so like there are many ways to tell an effective story. You also have to think about what your skill sets are. Absolutely use music in there, but it's not like I don't want people to feel like I have to use music. We see things which are pitches that are done very well, that are kind of slideshows. We've seen, I still remember one person, it was them talking to the camera for 5 minutes, but the way they talked and how passionate they talked, like easy finalist spot. They weren't got into finals, and then they end up changing to a slideshow thing later. And I actually think they may have should have just like talked to the camera. So there's many ways you can do an effective pitch. We'll certainly use there's many ways you can use sound effectively. There's many ways you can use the graphics effectively. Go ahead, Oliver.
Oh yeah, if anyone else wants to jump in, they can just do so. But I was just saying, like, also for Kobe's video, the hook was like really engaging. It's like a pretty innovative way to do it, and I think it was really smart. But okay, I literally might have missed this, but I feel like yours had more stats to back it up. So like maybe that's some
great points.
Yeah,
great points.
I'm not there. There wasn't like too much empirical evidence here, but there was like lots of strong anecdotes, obviously from the testimony.
Great points.
A very strong story as well. So
so think about there's personal stories you could bring in, there's stats you could bring in, a lot of science things. You probably want to bring some stats in, lots of different things. Clara, did I see your hand raised, or did I? No. Okay, Charles, go ahead.
Oh yeah, firstly, I want to say that was a very amazing like round 2 submission from one of the year. But I just had like a question rather than like a comment on this. So because I'm kind of curious on like how this is like being carried out as well. So when you have like those like boxes where people are donating glasses, are those glasses labeled with like the correctional, like what is like the correctional grade, so that like it could match better with like people who are like have certain, like impairments in the eyes?
Yeah, good question. I guess to quickly touch on it is we don't ask anyone to drop off their prescription as well. We kind of have machines, they're called lensometers. They have them at optometry clinics as well. We kind of test the prescriptions on our own and then store them in the database after getting the prescription, cleaning them, organizing them, and then they're kind of ready to be donated, especially internationally. So we can match people with the right prescription because there's obviously so many measurements behind it that we want to make sure they get the right glasses. But once we've collected, and we've collected over 4,000 now, there's bound to be a close enough fit to most people's eyesights, and so that's kind of where we're at now. But yeah, great question.
It's like
That's really cool.
a successful pitch will do what you just did, Charles. Like you're now like getting into nitty gritty. You're like you got the core thing, you got it, like you're sold, and now you're curious about this thing. Like it's really like a sub part of the implementation plan. But that's a really successful pitch because it means Kobe covered a lot of the key things, and now you're getting into nitty gritty, and that's almost what you want from judges. You can't fit. Why did I say this? You can't fit every single aspect of every plan you've got into 5 minutes. But if you can get them at least, you know what? I like your mission. I want to support it. I'm curious enough. Like that's I want to like ask these other questions, and that's when you know your pitch has been successful. So yeah, well done, Kobe. Great pitch. Any other feedback for Kobe? Okay, I know we're running short on time here. Well, past time. So we'll go into your rubric. I just want to say again, you're going to see different video styles and things, different ways to share an effective story. And yeah, I think perhaps with Kobe, maybe absolutely like putting more as constructive, like putting more stats would be potentially something to think about. I think I think in your second year video, the impact was clearer because you had those stories of impact. I think in the first one, the impact wasn't as strong. And so the impact section was lacking a little bit. And so again, there's always improvements, but you saw how I love the hook and the pace was really good. And there was depth, the team talking and bringing their life experience, but also bringing in other experiences. It was very, very effective. So as you folks can develop this, your part of your challenge will be is you've got these basically 5 minutes, and you need to somehow fit in sharing your problem. How this is like our idea. This is why it's unique. This is why it's different from maybe other things that are happening, or is complementing things that are happening. I think Kobe's team talked a lot well about the Lions Den and how this was kind of an extension of work that was that had been started, but someone needs to kind of take that over. How do we know that there's like impact potential? How do you articulate that? What is your plan of implementation? Kobe's team did that very well, where I think they laid out the plan very well, and you can see them actually doing it. I think in my video as well, we had a bit of like a slideshow essentially where we laid that all out. The founding team, mine did not do that as well, and then just overall, right? And like, how do you just create this compelling thing as a whole. So we're going to go into the actual rubric now a little bit and break it down. But I'm hoping that you folks have that all makes sense. And really your challenge now is centering the why, but also touching into the how and the what and all these rubric elements. How do you weave your pitch into a powerful story? Before we get into rubric, any questions? All right. I love hyper-listening, Oliver. Let me just see, does anyone else have questions? If not, we'll go to Oliver. Okay. All right. Oliver, go ahead, my friend.
This is like a really universal one. So I was just wondering, will we get our results for round 1 through scores or no?
No. You're not going to get scores. You're going to get whatchamacallits. You're going to get feedback, consolidated feedback. So we have 3 judges who judged every round 1 submission, at least 3 judges, and so you're going to get a consolidated version of that feedback and see these are the key points. That should be coming to you Monday. I know the feedback's being consolidated already. It's in a spreadsheet, but then now we need to like communicate that to teams alongside the things that you put into your mentor in that form, because the confirmation form. You had some questions you wanted for your mentor. So all of that I think is planned for Monday. So yeah, you will get some feedback, but we won't give you like a breakdown of scores or anything, okay? Very good. Okay, so why don't we get into, can you share the rubric, Kobe? And we're going to just kind of go through some of the specific things and just kind of let you know the things that you should be looking for. I'm going to encourage you folks that maybe a thing to do is you can either get external people, even your mentors, to do this, or perhaps you do it for yourselves. Like grade yourselves and say that, hey, you know what, how am I doing on this criteria? How am I doing on this criteria? How am I doing on this criteria? I think that is an effective way to kind of just be that check around, hey, are we hitting the things we need to hit? What can we have done better? What I'll say here as well is there's no whatchamacallit, there's don't feel just pressure to fit every single thing in. All right, if you try to hit fours and everything and fives and everything, I've seen many videos where the end result is you sped up 1.25x. You talk like I was doing, where you're like it's like a train. It's like, think about sometimes, you know what, maybe I won't get to all of this particular part of the rubric, but I think it's such a powerful video, and we're okay with it, right? I don't know if there's been any submission that's ever scored like perfect marks, and certainly across the judges. So I think in the end, really, the goal is to create this compelling, effective story, and trying to get that across. So let's go through some of the rubric elements here, starting with problem identification. A couple things you may notice. Can you go up a little bit there, Kobe? Thank you. First of all, your goal is, and connecting with the why, and the point of starting with why will connect well with problem identification, is why is the problem that you've identified something that is relevant? It can be a very localized problem. Talking about Hamilton is so powerful. Like, I really want more people to do that and not be like, oh, I'm going to change the world. I'm going to change my community, but within the context of that community, why is it an important problem? Have you also, like, are you? It's really powerful if you've got some, let's say, some mix of market research, or stakeholder research. You've actually done interviews with people, and you understand the problem from that perspective, as well as some like secondary research where you brought in, you've looked at research journals, you've got some stats to back up what you're saying, plus your lived experience. There's ways that you can combine all of that, and to really identify a problem effectively. So really think about how you do that. And you'll notice here there's an emphasis on primary research. So primary research can be very valuable. So really one of the things in the next little bit, if you haven't talked to real people around the problem you're trying to address, then talk to them. So for example, I'm sure probably Vila Pan Am has done this, but have you talked to a real badminton players from the Latin American region, and how do you center their voice? This is especially important. A lived experience can be very, very valuable when you're the one who's lived it, but sometimes people have ventures which are where they're trying to support people who aren't like them per se, right? But you're allies, and especially in those situations, how do you center the voices if you're doing an innovation for Indigenous communities, to center their voices into something? Think about that, and so you may need a combination of the lived experience plus the personal plus stats to make an effective problem, to do well in this problem identification section. Let's go to quality of innovation. So in quality of innovation, I think it does stand out as an innovative, exciting, and new way of solving a unique problem. Now, I want to say here, new doesn't have to be like it's a brand new idea that no one's ever thought of. New can be localized in a particular context. So again, I'll pick on Vila Pan Am here, but like some of your things may well have been done for other communities, but maybe what's missing is an initiative for Latin American communities in your part of Canada. So like thinking about here, new doesn't have to be like completely like no one ever thought about this before. I think all ideas at some level, they borrow from other ideas. All strong ideas, I should say, borrow from other ideas to some extent. However, you can see Kobe's idea was an extension of Lions Den work, right? So Lions Den did this thing for a while, and now their Vision 2020 is taking that project and like scaling it to a different level with new leadership. So I think there are ways that you can recognize that. In fact, what we would also say here is, build on the work of people, others before you. Partner about the different relevant orgs, right? So when you show that I know that other people are doing this, and I'm not saying that, either you might demonstrate that, I've got this business case where I can demonstrate that what I am doing is potentially superior to what my competitor is doing, or other organizations are doing this thing and I want to work with them. So either you work with them or you demonstrate if they're like competitors or something that you are better with them in X. So this is what can really create a quality solution proposition. This is what we're doing. It's really exciting. We think it's going to actually address the problem. Here's what makes it new. Think of, does the solution actually address the problem? Sometimes we do have things where it seems like the two are disconnected, and I read the problem and then I'm like, wait, is this the solution to this problem, or is this a solution to a different problem? So ensure that connection is there. Next section is the potential for social and environmental impact. I think one thing that is here that's very relevant is kind of you basically saying that if this was implemented, these are the kinds of people that would whatchamacallit, this is the impact that it could have, right? So if you give me $1,000 or $5,000, this is what I could do with that. Or you know what, I have in our implementation plan, we are Startup Best raising $200,000 in our seed round, and of course any support here will help. But if we can do that, and this is the potential, right? This is the potential if implemented of the impact we can receive. Equally, I think something that people often miss here is it's one thing to say all these stats, but also, how are you going to measure the impact? How are you going to hold yourself accountable? Do you have a strategy for doing that as well? So it's not just about you saying that I'm going to do X, Y, Z, but I'm going to actually prove this by monitoring these relevant stats. And next section, I believe, is around the implementation side. Can you go down, Kobe? Plan of implementation. So this is where demonstrate a comprehensive and clean strategy for implementation. So here's my phases of, these are the things that we're going to do. In the beginning, we're going to do X, Y, Z. This is also very valuable. And in both the impact and implementation sections, you can really highlight what you've done. The impact of what you've done is proof of what you can do as well, right? So if you've done stuff already, definitely highlight what you've done, and then that helps us also understand the impact that you can do. In the implementation plan, you may say that, like what Kobe's video did, right? If we are, you can see us implementing things, and then here's our vision for the future. If I remember, there's a timeline of here's the next steps. So kind of ways that you can bring all that in. You want the judge to come off feeling that, okay, this is a viable project that can actually be executed on. And to get that forward, there's also an awareness of there's going to be complexities. Maybe we need to deal with this regulatory thing. There, an awareness that sometimes you have in the pitch competition world, people who act like your idea is so it's just like, oh, just give me the money and it's going to happen, right? The reality is there's challenges need to be overcome, and I think the best ideas, especially in a YC context, are ones that show sensitivity to the challenges that are involved in terms of implementing the idea or the gaps that are there in their team. They're not just like, we've got no problems, right? Oh, we've got no problems. They're like, you know what, these are real things we need to sort out if we are implemented. Right now, a Tissue Tinker who won last year, they had this incredible project that was around using AI for kind of cancer diagnosis and with like this imagery thing. To implement that requires a whole whack of approvals, right? Now, they haven't been hoodwinked by, like, they were clear about that. They were like, these are things that we need to sort out. A lot of the judges' questions I remember last year, if I recall last year, were around that. So they're being very upfront about these are things that we need to deal with. And guess what? Because they show that awareness, they've taken that $5,000. They just won a Startup Fest, a $25,000 impact prize. Like, they're doing it. They got into this lab in McGill. Like, they're doing the most incredible things, but they're doing it with eyes wide open. And so we don't want, I think maybe you all might know what I'm talking about, like those sales pitches where it seems like you got the perfect product with no problems. And we want people to have like that awareness of there is some complexity in working on this broader issue. Next one, please, Kobe. The last one is team. What do you think is the section that is consistently under kind of recognized? And Charles, I see your hand raised. I'll let you ask your question if you also answer my question. So Charles, what is your question? And my question was, what do you think is the criteria which always scores the least in our things? Go ahead, Charles.
Wait, sorry. What's your question? What do you think is
My
what?
question was, what is the criteria which people always underdevelop in their pitch? The most underdeveloped criteria, almost consistently every single year, especially in round one, but often in round two as well.
Is that like part of the rubric or like one section of the rubric or
It's hard to rubric. Which is a rubric that like everyone seems to not do as well in as a whole.
strength of the founding team?
Strength of the founding team. I don't know why people don't want to talk about themselves, right? Like they're such cool people with cool stories and cool backgrounds and experiences. So really, really encourage all of you folks to talk about who you are, why you together demonstrate a collaborative, diverse kind of potential, but also that awareness. You see a recognition of gaps that, hey, there's a couple people we may need to hire with some money. There's still some gaps in our team, and that's also like something that is looked at positively. So you asked for my question, Charles. Thank you. I also got through Strand of the Founding Team. Now, what was your question?
Oh, yeah, so I was going to ask you. So I think in the one section before this, strength of the founding team, I think you mentioned um like be aware of the barriers and challenges that are there that you need to overcome as a team and kind of show sensitivity to like the challenges involved. So I was wondering like how you would do that. Like, so I'm thinking that the way we're trying to address that is by maybe talking about how we're trying to allocate that funding and kind of demonstrating that, okay, we're going to do this is something that we're going to have like a stepwise approach. And those are kind of implied that like kind of like the implied challenges that we're trying to like spend our money on to be able to kind of like I guess like resolve that type of thing. Is that like what you meant by that or?
Yeah, that's a very effective way to do it. It could be saying that, you know what, there's a couple partnerships that we want to like work on that, you know, we're either developing or like with BioSpecs, I suspect you might maybe I'm wrong here, but you'll need to work probably with educational institutions. Am I correct?
That is one way, that is one partnership we're looking into. I think the primary ones that we're looking into right now is developing a network with a newcomer organization, which we've been able to do with like the Ontario ones, but just in like the other regions and whether they have access to the library. If not, we may need to think about other partnerships. And I think education institution would be nice, but there was another organization that we found, which is, what was it called? A community of support. So they actually like it might help us like with finding speakers in different regions in Canada.
So you know, for both the implementation plan and founding team, like what you're highlighting here is, hey, in our broader founding team, there's also in a broader team, let's say, there's also all these other different components, and we are needing to address these gaps. We have a plan to develop these partnerships with these organizations, but like that's still a gap that's it needs to be kind of filled out, and also with our money, we have this gap. Maybe we need to build a website or something, I don't know, and we're gonna use some of our money to do that, right? So like I think like, depending on your gaps, there's different ways that you can like weave that in. All right. Okay. Let me go into overall impressions and then I'll do the bonus and then we'll break for questions. We're well over time here. So the overall impressions is it talks about this is at the end of the day, and this is why the why is also very important. You want this is where judges will basically say, you know what, I think beyond them cooking things in a rubric, there is something special about this team. You know, either there's a problem that's very real and that needs addressing. You can see the energy. How do you capture energy and passion and that kind of stuff, right? Like this is where you can see some of that in the other parts. Like you will sometimes like judges when they see it, they might be like, you know, this is a team we really want to support. You know, does the team have a truly innovative idea or compelling story? You know, do you see with the video itself, like it's really well done. Like, you know, it took some effort to produce. You know, it was well presented information. You know, does that have the? Can you see this? This is a case where maybe you see people who've overcome barriers, and like again, not everyone starts in the same place when it comes to innovation. And if someone's like having to get through stuff in order to even be here, and I'm again thinking about your story, Charles. Really powerful story, right? Like for you to like even be here, we're now giving back to newcomer youth, and you were there once, right? So like things that basically this is where like how do you moving a judge is going to get you points in a lot of places, but especially with the overall impression section. And there is there's a level of discretion. This is also where sometimes there's projects where they're addressing the needs of equity deserving groups, and there are people who are coming from those groups as well. This is where that can sometimes be demonstrated. So judges have some discretion here, but this is where what I'll say is the story becomes especially important, because if you move a judge, that's where they're more likely to give you those 4s and 5s. Okay. The final thing is I'll just go through the bonus structure, and then I'm going to open it for questions. So in terms of bonuses, I definitely had to give this a look. The core is you better engage with your mentor. Please do that. I've seen a lot of threads already where different teams are responding, and I'm loving seeing that. But we've had occasional situations where basically teams haven't tried as much engagement mentors, and so you don't get bonus points if you're not really, or if it's like your mentor's putting all the effort and your effort is minimal. That's also why we ask people to CC the Hello account in the kind of initial mentorship thing, or the mentorship at youthimpactchallenge.ca account, because we just want to kind of initially get a sense that, okay, yes, you're making the efforts there. At one point would be that they contacted the mentor and they tried to do the bare minimum, but it really wasn't as much engagement. And 2 points is where there's like they're doing everything they're supposed to be doing, and then occasionally you can get 3 points. All of this is assigned by the mentor themselves. Okay, so essentially the way it works, the mentor assigns your bonus points, so please do have that positive relationship. The mentors may assign you 3. Typically they'll assign 2 points, but then if you really have a positive relationship, it might be 3. And it's exceptionally and that's for exceptional cases where you have a team that's really putting all the effort. They've got such a really interesting idea that they care a lot about, and you can see such potential, all this kind of stuff. So I will say again, really pushing that mentor relationship. Also, the team does monitor things. So even like Kobe, keep a record of like who's attended the workshop today, and like we basically there's an opportunity for you, even if a mentor doesn't give you 3, if you got a 2 and you've been attending our workshops and everything, then the staff may but kind of at their discretion boost someone to a 3. And we have attendance records and things, right? So all right, so we know that people are attending these things. We know that they're actively in Slack, they're asking questions. Shout out Oliver, you answered one of my participants' question. Love that, right? Like you're engaging with your participants as well, and you're saying, hey, you know what, you're helping us out as organizers, and that's all seen very positively. So I'm going to say to all of you folks, we really want to encourage positive engagement with mentors, positive engagement with workshops, positive engagement with all these things, and there's this opportunity to get those bonus points, and sometimes it does make that difference. So yeah, ultimately the YC team, will take what the mentors kind of judge the team on, and we may boost a few scores based on what we see. We'll also sometimes verify a couple of things. For example, if there's occasionally times when maybe mentors don't give full information, and then we'll look at where the threads, what the threads and back and forth were with various teams, or you might follow up with either mentors or your team to just kind of get clarity on stuff. So yeah, so this is, again, there's an opportunity to get more points there, and basically core of it is get involved, folks. I think YC really, I was just chatting with Kobe about this and the team. The funding is one part of our support, and we fully understand it may be the main motivator why a lot of people have applied to YC. But then we do have our mentors are giving their time. They're incredibly accomplished people. That's a key part for support, as is the workshops. We hope you found value in this as well, as is the networking stuff. We're going to do some networking things. We're going to do a game night. All of these are parts of that support. So really encourage you folks take advantage of not just the funding, but also our other supports. And indeed, that's where in conditions of participation, if at least some minimal level of engagement with other supports is also requested. But all right, my friends, I think that is our that kind of presentation on storytelling and starting with why. I am so excited to see what all of y'all come up with. It's so everyone's so innovative, and there's so many different ways that people do their videos, and it's going to be really, really great to see how it all comes together. So, all right, I'm going to now just pass it to you folks for any questions, and we'll go from there. We can pause the video here, Kobe. Thanks to everyone